The first thing I would do in reteaching this question would be to look and see what the misconceptions or errors were in the answer choices. And what it tells me is that the 40% of kids who got it right either knew it or they didn't. The other remaining three probably really didn't have any idea. They were just making good guesses. Bear with me as I turn on my pen, which is not going to happen. Really, for situations like these, memorization is the best way to go. I know kids, we do a lot of X, Y, domain, range, independent, dependent, but we've got to make sure that we somehow throw in that X is left and right, Y is up and down. Teachers have a variety of ways of doing it. Another thing that might mess the students up is the notation here. But in this case, I don't think it was the misconception. I think if they knew domain and range, they got it right. So my reteaching strategy would be to come up with a catchy mnemonic device that would remind them what domain and range looks like in a graphic situation. For geometry, I also looked at this question, did the same thing, started here with the misconceptions, and I noticed that most students picked H, or technically C, and you got that by being lazy, by not reading all of the questions. What I teach always with geometry is that you label all given information, and then for ratio and proportion, I always deconstruct this figure, make two figures. And I think if students would have done that, they would not have had the same issues. And it happens over and over again. I mean, this is something that the kids need to do. Because what is given is that SQ is 6, that QT, this other part, is 24. The perimeter of this small triangle equals 20, and we are wanting to find the perimeter of the large triangle. And if the kids will draw these two triangles, they can see that this is 6, perimeter is 20. They have to draw the entire triangle to realize that this whole side is 30, and we're looking for the perimeter. And if they do it that way, they'll see that 6 times 5 gives you 30, 20 times 5 would give you 100, where A is the correct answer instead of the misconception of using 24 in the ratio instead of 30. Okay, for Algebra 2, absolute value, and also looking at the way that the students answered on the error analysis, I would have to say kids just straight up did not know what to do. They were confused, I would think, by the notation, scared by the absolute value, scared by the fact that it wasn't a function and that it was set equal to 2. One of the things that I would remind kids of when we retaught was that absolute value is distance. And the way we deal with distance is you've got two directions, up, down, left, right. You've got two choices, positive or negative. So the choices are, you can go nowhere, you can travel nowhere. You can go in one direction, or you can go there and back. You've got three choices, 0, 1, or 2. J should not have even been an answer, and I think that we got this many responses because there was actually the number 3 in the problem. So to start with, we would start with the meaning of what it is. We would move on to simplifying. course, you need to subtract 2 from both sides. At this point, I would offer the kids the opportunity to put it in the calculator and actually look and see what's going on. They could have done it in the other representation too, where it wasn't equal to 2. But if you put it in your calculator like this negative is going to reflect it, you'll see that it hits the x-axis and there's only one solution. Another thing that you can do is if you just work it all the way through, it is set equal to 0. If you divide both sides by 3, you've got the positive option, which is 4x minus 12 equals 0, and you've also got the negative option. And I think what happened, since there was a 0, the kids didn't know what to do. A lot of teachers teach to make this positive and this negative, but you've actually got to isolate this quantity and make sure you have the positive representation of the quantity or the negative representation of the quantity. This is the definition of true absolute value. A lot of the teachers want to teach it and 4x minus 12 equals negative 0, which of course doesn't work. So several options on this one. First off, starting with distance, you know what it really means. You can travel nowhere, one direction, or you can go there and back, which is 2 directions. You can make it a visual problem where you set it equal to 0 and use your calculator, or you can solve, but make sure that you've taught and that you reteach the actual definition of inequality, not the standard shortcut that a lot of mathematicians take.